My name is Tom Lawrence, and I'd like to introduce you to Acadia Images workshops, a facility owned and operated by my son Vince and myself. We're both photographers and year-round residents of Seal Harbor, Maine. Acadia National Park is in our backyard. On the island of Mount Desert and in Acadia National Park, we have an incredible amount of diversity in this small geographical area. On this island, you will travel through a landscape that is constantly changing. Starting on the pink granite mountains, you will pass by cascading streams, glacial lakes, ponds and marshlands, deciduous and coniferous woods, salt marshes, and the iconic rocky coastline. There are also many cultural areas to explore as well. This wide gamut of scenery allows the photographer to express their craft in ways that are only found here in Acadia, where the mountains meet the sea. During our workshops, we want you to develop and embrace your unique vision, rather than depend on someone else to tell you where to stand to get the shot. Our workshop has a curriculum centered on the 5 pillars of effective photography to aid in your pursuit of enduring images. While at first mention, these 5 pillars may sound too familiar and elementary. Vince and I have both recognized that these 5 elements interplay in every image we produce. We also recognize that the craft of photography has to be practiced, or we become rusty and lose the edge that's required to produce good images. At our workshops, we want you to establish these 5 pillars in your capture process, and we want you to practice them so they are a natural way of thinking as you approach your photographic subject. The first pillar is communication. In some regards, it is the culmination of the other 4 pillars. Photography, by its very nature, is about communication, and we need to ask several questions about the intended subject. Is the subject I want to communicate clearly recognizable? Is the scene emotionally engaging? Is my subject inspiring to the imagination? These questions will help our communication have a greater impact. Acadia has both bold and subtle scenes, and the ability to isolate your subject will be critical. The changing weather and the time of day often make an atmosphere of theatrical quality that produces a powerful element of emotion. When immersed in a landscape as dynamic as ours, you want to make an image that can translate that special moment to others. The second pillar is lighting. The quality of light makes the greatest contribution to emotional impact of an image. Acadia is situated on the coast of Maine, poised to receive a variety of different lighting. Beautiful low-angled morning light washes over the coastline. Diffuse light filters through the early morning fog. By the end of the day, as the shadows grow longer, the warm evening light lingers on the mountains. Composition is our third pillar, and we need to consider what is pleasing to the eye. A viewer shouldn't have to wonder what to look at in the image. The viewer's eye should land on the primary subject and then explore the rest of the image. Several of the elements that contribute to a more pleasing image are separating your frame into 1/3, 2/3 to include recognizable patterns, the balance of visual mass, diagonal and leading lines, a perspective change, and the use of depth of field. These are just a few ideas to get us started. A short walk along any of the paths that crisscross the landscape of Acadia will afford the photographer ample opportunity to work on their compositional skills. Focus is our fourth pillar, and when an image has a tack-sharp subject, the viewer's eye quickly comes to rest on it. Focusing on the subject within the general subject is a critical factor, which needs to be achieved at the time of capture. When working in portrait or macro photography, many of the intimate subjects found along the trails, such as the wildflowers, show their detail and texture when critical focus is achieved. Our last pillar is exposure. Controlling exposure has three components, which help the photographer achieve their desired results. The balance between shutter speed, aperture value, and the ISO setting enable you to capture the appropriate tonal range for the subject. And in addition, we can either freeze or blur any of the action taking place in the scene. The aperture setting, besides controlling the amount of light, produces the depth of field we use in our composition. The seascapes found on the rocky coast of Maine, with their changing tide and splashing, swirling waves, offer endless opportunities to master the appropriate exposure. As part of the photographer's experience, we are prepared to help you with Lightroom and Photoshop, and to explore techniques which have been made much easier to perform with the digital format and software. Among these are HDR, high dynamic range, panoramas, focus stacking, night sky photography, and time-lapse. I'd like to share with you an example of what one photographer produced during a 3-day workshop in August. Our workshop set the goal to make a collection of images that would communicate the experience of Acadia to others. We call this the 72-hour challenge. Photographers who have participated in our curriculum are amazed at the number of worthy images they add to their collection. Our goal is to provide an opportunity for you to develop your photographic thought process and for you to be able to consistently produce effective images. I look forward to meeting you in an upcoming workshop.